eSports League. I'm JT. Tonight we are live on iRacing with the Pagnian Imports Kia Optima Championship, and this is starting us off after wrapping up the Super 2 series last week. So it is opening round tonight. With round 1 we're at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Round 2 we head to Okayama. Round 3 is at Summit Point, and then finishing up at Laguna Seca. Session tonight at Charlotte Motor Speedway. We're in the Roval formation, and there's 10 minutes of practice. Weather is partly cloudy. There's 10 minutes of qualifying, and the race is 40 minutes. Cars are capped at 47% fuel, so they're going to be needing a fuel stop or two to be able to get the cars back home. And then with wrapping up the championship last week, our winner of the Super 2 series was Blake Urquhart, taking out the win with a nice amount of points, and it's a very long standings. And to take us out for the series, we were at Bathurst Mount Panorama last week. We saw Adrian Simpson take pole, go on to take the win. It was Cameron Jones that took the fastest lap bonus points. So we'll go over to the track. It's 3.6 kilometers long. We're in the USA for Charlotte, and there's a whole bunch of Kias out there already. So we're carrying on the nice numbers already. And then we do have a co-commentator again tonight. We have Ryan that will be joining us. And welcome back in the commentary box, Ryan.
G'day mate, how you going? It's been a little bit, but I'm glad to be back.
It's good to have you joining in again.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be a bit of fun.
Yeah, I think it should be rather interesting. We've got about 23 drivers loading in at the moment.
Only 4 drivers with times on at the moment, so they're still getting out, getting a little bit of practice in. Maybe they got a couple of tracks or something before their time, but certainly getting whatever practice they can in before they jump into the race. Jump into qualifying, I should say.
Yeah, it's only 3.5 minutes left for the practice, and then over for the 10 minutes of qualifying.
I haven't actually driven these cars before in iRacing, so not entirely sure how they handle or what their characteristics are like. When going over the curb, they seem to be pretty alright. Looking at a couple of these drawers, they curb popping all over the shop, so it looks really cool.
Yes, it should be quite a good one. And hey, Steph and hey Mick, thanks for jumping on the stream. So is my mic audio a bit more louder now for you guys?
So we got at the moment. So far it looks like people are putting in a 1 minute 25. Fastest I can see at the moment is a 125.15, so
Looks like Veacock's just snuck in a quicker one, 123. Guys will be having some fun with a little bit of the oval. Here's Jason Schooler getting very slippery down into that chicane.
I'm loving watching this two-wheel action going on. There's a couple of people going on the grass, trying to exploit as much track limit as they can, but I don't think they'll find much grip out there.
So yeah, well, even the drivers clearing the blue line on the banks as to whether they can come down. So they've just been instructed whatever the track determines as an off-track, they can exploit that. So
I think with off-tracks too, no safety rating affected in league races, so you're allowed to go off-track as long as you don't get a penalty a certain amount of time, so you can sneakily get a little bit of time in if you exploit the right track limit. Otherwise, if you get the wrong one, it'll give you a slowdown penalty, which you have to slow down a lot more than
the drivers, once they got those 17 points stung into, they'll be serving that drive-through. And we do have some debuts tonight. So Dan Bartosh, if I'm getting his name right. I believe that is actually Dan Boone from Project Cars. So he's made the jump over. So not new with Apex, but a new over onto the iRacing. It's a good looking car too. The VIP pet food livery on that car.
Bit of a shame Ben Gisbergen look, isn't it?
It is. We have Dave Jansen debuting with us tonight. So all the best him in his first race with us.
Yeah, it's definitely a big change between Project Cars 2 and iRacing. I started off, I think my first game that I had on the sim was Project Cars 2, and as soon as I got to iRacing, I don't think I've ever touched it again. I don't think I've played Project Cars in maybe 2 years.
Yeah,
So it's definitely a big jump in physics. Well, even the jump in physics between Project Cars and Assetto Corsa, it's just extremely difficult to get used to once you've gotten used to one of them. So kudos to these boys, giving it a red hot go.
Yeah, we've had a good amount of the Drow drivers that regularly drive with Project Cars jump over. We just had on the screen before was Daniel Winrow, and he was also making appearances in our Project Cars.
So far out of the practice, the fastest time was a 1:23.7. Next fastest time, that was Cameron Beacock that posted that time, sorry. Next fastest was Blake Urquhart, who did a time 0.17 tenths slower. Bit of a gap to third though, but that's still practice. So we'll see what happens.
It is. There's some pretty good times. And Steph, our co-commentator, is Ryan. So you would have seen him on track plenty of times in V8s before with us.
Haven't done much of V8s recently, but the last time I was trying to be competitive was in the Skip Barber series, and that was a fair few months ago now.
It was.
Been a little bit of a spell.
Looks like all drivers out on the track, so they've scrambled out trying to utilise that track time. There's only 10 minutes to get the qualifying time and then get those championship points.
I don't know how well tyre temperature comes into this either. You see some cars where tyre temperature doesn't matter a heap. So, don't know what the tyre compound or tyre model of this car's like, whether you need to generate a heap of temperature first, or if you can just go out and bang it straight away. You see cars like the Skip Barber even, and the Porsche especially, definitely need the tyre temperature up straight away, but yeah, not entirely sure how well these ones go with low tyre temp. So
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Very well cause it to understeer a little bit more, because for those that aren't aware, these cars are front wheel drive. They are under understeering machine. They are a lot of fun to drive, but they can be very tricky to try and keep it within those track limits and can catch you off guard.
See, with rear wheel drive, you've got to be really gentle on the throttle so you don't swing the bum out sideways, but front wheel drive, you've got to be really gentle on the throttle so you don't spin one wheel and lose all your lap time. Then you've got no drive out of the corner. Definitely a very big difference in where you find the speed.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and Steph, that is right. These liveries are looking fantastic. The guys have spent a fair bit of time in getting their liveries. It's probably not a car that too many people would have actually had one ready to go for. Adrian's carrying a heap of pace coming down the chicane. We'll jump on board for a lap with a driver in a moment. Looks like we've got first times coming through. Urquhart set a 24.6. Schooler is a 26.1.
Sorry from the radio silence, I'm having a little bit of trouble with an overlay I'm trying to get. So I'll try and get that sorted as quick as I can, and then I'll jump back into talk and racing.
I'm not sure if you can see chat too, Ryan, but Steph and Mick have said hello to you.
G'day boys, how you going?
Fair few times now coming through. There's 8 drivers getting a time on the board. Oh yeah, another driver I did miss. It's loaded in. We got Michael Brennan debuting tonight as well. It's all the best to Michael. Might have been a little bit of a blink there for Sam Tucker, but he did actually just bring the car back in. Hey DK, thanks for jumping on the stream.
You know, so it looks like the times aren't quite as fast as they were in the previous session just yet, so tyre temperature might be a big factor. Big crash. Nailed the wall in the VIP Pet Foods car. Can't quite remember who that one was.
Jump on board for a driver. I think we've got a little bit delay. We've already gone down through turn 1 from the looks of it for on board with Damien Cross. See, rides right out over that curb out beyond the blue line. That's where you can utilise that extra bit of track. iRacing does actually have a couple of, yeah, definitely, and there's a couple of versions of this track on iRacing as well. There is a previous version and a more current version.
Even just watching the angle through the steering angle on the way into the bank, and you can see how much understeer is pulling and how gentle he was being on the throttle to try and prevent that as much as possible.
The chicane's going to be much more interesting. Look at that lift as he hits the curb.
Definitely not shy on pulling 2 wheels off, is he?
No. You see how banked the track is with the gyro camera, maintaining that horizon.
Makes it really late on the brakes into this final chicane under the back straight, so hits the curbs nicely, coming in towards turn 1 again.
And a brilliant one. This is where we just crossed over as he takes that first corner. It's going to be a little bit tricky come the race. It's going to be a very tight turn 1.
You can hear him stabbing the throttle, just going on and off, trying to find where it'll actually bite in. It's a struggle.
Urquhart's holding a 23.8, so that's got him pole position. So he's only a couple of attempts gap ahead of Vcock. Banks is qualified 3rd. He's currently parked up. Patterson qualifying 5th. Chetton's qualified 4th. Debuted with us in the Super 2's last series. I don't think he was there for the last couple of rounds. He was putting big pace in the V8s, and he's showing it again in the Kias as well. Schoolers in 8th. Gallen, 9th. Well, there's only 40 seconds left to qualifying. Bradbury getting a heap of curb through that final chicane. He's pushing his, I think he's sitting 22nd at that point. He's just jumped up into 11th. 10 seconds left on the clock. That's going to be it for qualifying, but he is parking the car up, so he's going to have to be satisfied with that time. No real movement in our qualifying standings. Those early times set seem to have stuck. Let's see. Those rotors glowing in the rear. Not sure if there was a little bit of brake on. It was going around the bank. Cochrane gets squeezed out by Gomes briefly. They're fighting it out for this final lap in qualifying. Veacock stolen pole. Also getting in with a 23.8. Parks it up, so it's going to leave Urquhart this final lap to see if he can steal back pole. There's 25 points up for grabs. He wants another championship under his belt. That's going to have to be getting as many points as possible. White's lost a fair bit of pace. You got rather broad. Looks like all drivers managing to finish up. Only Gomes and Cochrane left, and hopefully should be able to get these qualifying standings up. There's all drivers crossing the line, so we should be able to actually get time to check out these results. Qualifying results: Cameron Veacock holds pole position, then have Blake Urquhart, Stephen Banks, Harkin Shetton, Oliver Pattinson. Oh, we've had the session jump over, so it's now muddled them up, but their numbers are all going to be now confused, so we'll jump her back across onto the track.
Yeah, sorry for my radio silence, guys. I'm still having a little bit of trouble with this overlay, so just trying to get that sorted quickly, and I'll start talking again pretty soon.
That's alright. See the grid. Curved outs is going to make things interesting for the grid start, especially for the drivers that are already on the chicane as they're coming through. It's going to be a interesting start to the race. Now 24 cars gridding up, just waiting on one more driver. About to see the green flag.
Green flag, green flag.
And away A little bit of a delayed start for a fair few. VCOP manages to pull away. There's a lot of screaming going on from these Kia Optimas as they're powering off the line. Look at VCOP. It's only got a 2-second gap already.
Oh, got a little bit of spin going on in the midfield there. Missed her it was the Nvidia car. Starting to slide around a little bit. Apparently you do get a lot of effect from cold tyres, well, warm tyres I should say. Got very slippery cold tyres in these cars. Oh, crash! The Nvidia car again, Daniel Gomes, number 40. Bit of pile up in the back there, number 130 involved as well.
There's a whole bunch of cars.
Caution, yellow flag.
So now comes the safety car for lap 1. So several cars requiring a tow.
What a start. How good's this?
Bathurst, I'm not even sure where he currently is. He's well off trying to find his way back to the track. He's just going to have to tow that back in. Yeah, so he's...
Turn 1.
Yeah, so he's... Looks like he got pushed off. So that's Bathurst, Phillips and Gomes caught up in that.
A couple of drivers will be spewing after this.
Yeah, we haven't seen the safety car for a while. There goes the safety car just driving on through VCOP's car. Some interesting just to see what drivers do.
Already a really good start straight off the bat, isn't it? Already safety car in lap 1.
That's it.
Positions currently VCOP, Urquhart, Patterson, Banks and Cross in the top 5. The thing with the iRacing safety car is it's unmanned, so you can't really change the safety car procedure. So, and you can't go into the pits before everyone's caught up in the safety car. But the safety cars, you've got to follow the safety car for a lap before you can jump into the pit, so you don't actually get any advantage from it. So if there's someone behind you who's got a little bit more fuel than you, but you've got a hell of a gap over before the safety car comes out, you don't actually get any advantage from it. Then you have to follow the safety car's out for 3 laps minimum. So it can, depending on what situation you're in, it can be a really frustrating safety car. But in the Bathurst 1000 a few months ago, it worked out really well in my favour because I spun out and crashed, probably 7 laps in, I think. And then there was a safety car right at the end of everyone else's fuel window, and I'd come into the pits, I had full tank of fuel, so I only had to get, I had to get 7 laps less worth of fuel than everyone else, so I ended up catching up to everyone at the back end of the safety car, coming into the pits, and then coming out in 3rd place, because everyone was bunched up together.
So you can definitely utilise it for some strategy and make it work for you. Especially now coming back into a rolling start. And it will be single file. Any lap cars will be held to the back. This could be almost giving enough time for our tow drivers to get out. They're not going to be too far down.
A couple of people dummying going into the pits to try and set off some people. See if they'll go into the pits too and trick them into going in.
Yeah, see if they follow suit.
Going in.
That's Steph. Looks like a project car start. Yes, and Jackson Jam. Thanks for jumping on. Yes, things started off spicy for sure. I think our newer drivers jumping in as crossed over from project cars are going to be well excited at this point to actually be out there amongst safety car. It's not a feature.
What is a safety car?
Yeah, not a feature they're used to.
Don't actually see a safety car in many sims at all, really. A lot of sims you go into, there are manned safety cars on actual organised races, but I can't really think of many at all that have an actual safety car from the get-go. I think R-Factor 2 have recently added a safety car off the top of my head, don't quote me on it.
No, even once Gran Turismo Sport started to get heavy into the eSports, they end up having manned safety cars, but they just only introduce liveries you could use and cars to actually get within the game, which was the safety car, which you could also race with if you wanted to, but it was solely there just for one driver to sit in the pits waiting for their turn to come out and do a caution lap.
Yeah, but you got to admit, even watching the F1, it's always fun to see their Mercedes safety car going around for a couple of skids.
That's it.
See him put the bum sideways a couple of times through certain corners and really gets the hard pump and the excitement going for the fans, me included. There's a lot of people that don't actually like having a safety car out. They prefer to just have green flag running the entire race, but I reckon it makes it heaps more exciting. I was actually having an argument with my brother last night when the F1 was on, saying how much better racing is with a safety car, because then you don't know what's going to happen, you don't know who's going to come in or what will come out on the backside of the safety car, really. Like, for those who watched last night's F1 race, it looked like Hamilton might have actually taken it before the safety car came out, and he was in the lead after the safety car had come back in, but he was on 10-lap old mediums when the rest of the field were on brand new softs. So he got taken down the order pretty well straight away and went from in a winning position to 4th place, so not even on the podium. So a lot of people might find safety cars really big disadvantage, I should say, but it certainly makes it entertaining for us commentators, doesn't it?
It does, and it's definitely helped those 3 drivers caught up in the incident. So they've towed, got that fast repair underway, and they're back out and rejoining the pack now. Usually get about 3 safety car laps on most tracks, sometimes an extra lap depending on, but we've called them in. I did reduce the amount of laps because we've already a good amount in. So this, yeah, there are codes for that. There are green flag.
Back off again. Biggest done by Beacock, 3/10 of a second already over Urquhart. 5/10 going into turn 1. Going back down pretty quick though. He's got a hell of a run on him. Coming into turn 2, Urquhart's chasing him down, trying to get that position back. Looks like that Beacock just went a little bit wide there. You can see he missed the curving just on the inside of that. Might find a little bit of speed out of it, but it looked like Urquhart made the curve.
Looked like it did. Looked like there was a bit more mid-corner speed he carried. Urquhart did close in at the turning, but then Beacock's pulled back away. Patterson's up in P3 and he's got Banks right on his tail.
Looks like he might have a little bit more tyre temperature than Urquhart too, because he's got 0.8 of a second now. I don't know if that's anything to do with aero grip or not. I really don't know anything about these cars. I should have driven them before I come in.
Yeah. And not sure just how much. The tyres wouldn't have been really up to temp to have started only 1 lap in before the safety car. So whether the drivers did utilise that safety lap to try and get some extra temp in.
A lot of thing you'll see these guys doing, especially under safety car, you might see them dragging the brakes. And what I mean by that is they hold the brake pedal maybe quarter brake pressure or half brake pressure, so it's got a bit of pressure while you're on the throttle, so you're still rolling but you've got the brakes on at the same time. And when you're warming up the brakes, that transfers residual heat into tyres, so it ups the tyre temperature while you're going. So you see a lot of people doing that. You don't see much weaving behind a safety car in iRacing, but there are actually certain cars where weaving does come into good effect. But there are a lot of cars that, especially rear-wheel drive cars, where you need the rear temperature.
What's some curve from school? You just dived on 2 wheels out in front of Tucker and narrowly took out the 2 of them. These 2 are flat out at it. Looks like Simpson's had to have a tow as well in it.
He's got a bit of an accident, I missed it.
And he's already out on track, so I don't know when that tow happened, whether that occurred during whilst the race was under caution.
Did he tow or did he go into the pits? Not entirely sure.
Patterson take the fastest lap of the race. It was previously held by VCOP. That was after Banks has gotten around. So a little bit of a slipstream now helping him over the course of that lap.
Schooler, he's on his side.
He's just had the tow.
What happened there?
Doesn't appear to have actually made any contact with anyone. It's not picking up that he's touched another car. Wouldn't be surprised if it's some curb. As these cars are being thrown around.
He took a bit of curb and lost it in the rear. Lost it in the rear, and when he hit the outside wall and the camber on his tyre, tripped him over and put him onto his side.
Yeah, those sausage curbs are huge on this track.
Still had the wheel spinning while he was on the side there to try and rotate him back around. So he had a couple of close calls with some of those cars when he was trying to get back on his wheels. Some really good racing with these cars, tell you what.
Yeah, it's making it very tight for them to have to do some battles. So I think with the less power to have to try and fight the car, they can just really concentrate on duking it out on the track.
It might be a curse to say this, I can't speak from experience, but maybe being the front wheel drive, they might be a little bit easier to control than a lot of the other cars that have been around this league. Like the V8s are really hard to control because of just how little grip they've got. And the fact that they're rear wheel drive with 650 brake horsepower underneath them on it. So I think these, off the top of my head, are around 400 horsepower, but they're front wheel drive, so you're not really losing the rear as much. And when you do have to slow, you plant your foot down flat, then it actually controls it and pulls the front forward, which neatens up the rear.
Ben Rose has had a spin. I don't think he's taken any damage. Well, there might have been a little bit of contact. I think it may have been a bit of a touch between Rowe and Burt. Shane Patterson looking to try and move up a little bit. Haley's just up ahead. It's well bunched. Well, these guys, he's coming into the pits. So I think Bert's taken some damage in that incident.
There's a bit of a battle going on in the mid-pack. Philip Buckland's going side by side into turn 3 by the looks of it. Turn 2 maybe. Still going side
good
by
amount
side,
of speed.
Oh, that was close.
That's a lot of curb. That's Winrow just ahead. Or is it? No.
Shane Patterson side by side too. Oh, there's so many cars side by side. There's four-way battle all side by side.
I think that's Tony Phillips. So he's actually down a lap. So he was battling with a lapped car. Buckland got through. Our race lead is still VCOP. He's pushing out 1.2. So we're 8 laps in. It's 5 minutes to the halfway point. It'll be interesting just to see when the fuel starts to get light in these things.
How they handle too. When looks like the fuel tank's in the back of the car, so as it gets lighter, it might start to make them a little bit more sliding. Or on the other side, it might make them turn a little bit better. Really interesting to see what happens here. Another thing you've got to consider is tyre depth. So these tyres might be really soft compound, which means they might grip really good when they get up to temperature, but they'll degrade really fast. So These cars are soft tyre degradation. If these tyres are soft compound, I should say, tyre degradation might be a factor in this too. Might be seeing some drivers taking on tyres during their pit stop as well.
Could be the case. Bradbury's going to try and sling out. Is he going to be able to do it in time? No. Tucker tries to defend coming down the chicane. Bradbury backed out. That was unlucky too. As Tucker ended up diving straight through. That's allowed Gallen to move up a position.
Right now. Do you say this was one of the project cars, boys?
Sorry?
Do you say Gallen was one of the project cars, boys?
Yeah, that's Gallen 350. He jumped over for the Super 2s.
Looks like he's loving his iRacing start at the moment.
Yeah, he sure is.
Got a bit of pace on him, that's for sure. He's currently sitting P8. The order currently is Cameron Beacock, and then Blake Urquhart with a 1.9 second gap, and Stephen Banks 5.3 seconds behind, and Patterson 6.3, then Cross 8.8 seconds. So there's a little bit of a gap across the top 5.
Yeah, and it looks like an extra 1.5 seconds added over the course of this lap that Beacock's put over Urquhart. So maybe a mistake made by Urquhart costing him that time. And since we are approaching that halfway point, it could definitely be starting to get a little light.
Looks like Russell Gander's dropped connection a little bit too. He might be back on the track now, but I got a message saying he dropped out due to battery loss, so that'll be really unfortunate. But his race.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. He's had to come in.
He's currently sitting 3 laps down, so it's super frustrating when that happens. Definitely feel for him right now.
Good on him for still jumping back on it and getting in the car no matter what.
Looks like the leaders are starting to encounter traffic.
Car
It's
just
2.7
ahead.
second gap now. So I wonder if...
Could it be some fuel saving as well?
Oh yeah, could definitely be too.
Might be a little bit of strategy in it.
Might be hoping for a safety car so he can dive into the pits behind him and take on that little bit less fuel. Or on the flip side, he might have wasted his tyres trying to follow him.
Could definitely be the case. Pushing that car just a little bit too much to try and hold that gap. So he's sitting at that 1.2 for a fair few laps.
Another thing you might see is overheating tyres. So if people are really trying to push absolutely everything they can get out of the tyres for too long, the tyres can start to overheat. And once you get past that ideal temperature window, the tyres don't tend to grip very well. So that might be what Urquhart's suffering from a little bit at the moment. Gap's looking like it's sort of levelling out a little bit, I think, because it hasn't really changed in the last lap. Still hovering around that 2.7 second gap. Just gone up to 2.8 now, I think, 2.9, so he might be, looks like he's losing tyre pace, I'd say, by the looks of that.
We've even got an extra 4 degrees in track temp as well from the qualifying session. So they could be starting to see a fair bit of warmth. And Charlotte definitely hard on those tyres. Those 2 chicanes will be putting a fair bit, especially with how they're thrashing these cars right out over the curbs, hitting all those sausage curbs.
The gap between Beacock and Urquhart now is out to 3.3 seconds, so...
We got drivers starting the pit now. We can hear a few crunches going on. Oh, I think Shane Patterson's just had a stack. Yep, he's just towed the car in.
Sounds like there's a little bit of drama over the radio too, so I didn't quite hear who that was between, but there's a little bit of unhappy folks in the mid-pack at the moment with maybe with lap cars not letting them through. But I'm talking about pulling 1.1 second gap
Might have a look.
over the bloke in front, so he might be getting a little bit angry with him not letting him through.
So just a slip for Patterson. We could hear a fair few crunches going on in the background.
Okay, it might be fuel saving. I'm riding on board with him now. It doesn't look like it's going right to the top of the rev limiter. He's shifting on his shift lights. He makes it to the last green one before it goes orange, so he might just be doing a little bit of strategy. You can definitely see the gap going out on the straight.
Yeah, he's not running,
straight line speed.
Rolling the car out, is he?
No, he's not.
Oh, it looks like he's got some damage to the car as well. Does look like a little bit of a buckle in the front, looking at that cockpit view.
Oh, buckle's gone around. Oh no. Take a look at Phil Buckland's replay. He spun out and he did a very dangerous rejoin just then.
Might be in the radio chatter going on.
Let's have a look at this replay of Phil Buckland. Goes over the curb on the final chicane and sides it into the wall, but oh my god. Check that out on replay. Real unsafe rejoin just there. He just floors it around in front of 4 incoming cars.
So lucky to have avoided that one then.
People had to escape right across the grass, so wouldn't be surprised if they got a slow down from that. Definitely would have given them an off-track point.
It's like a fair bit of traffic they're having to get through at the moment as well, the race leaders.
Those things that make racing really entertaining. Lapped cars and safety cars. Leacock's still currently sitting in the lead. None of the top 2 guys are pitted yet, but the gap's back out to 5.7 seconds between Peacock and Urquhart at the moment, and followed by Banks with an 11-second gap.
Yeah, somewhere past that halfway point. There's 16.5 minutes to go. We've done 14 laps.
I'm willing to hazard a bet that Urquhart's betting on a safety car at the moment. Well, it doesn't seem like we're going to get one. Looks like he might even be driving the car more conservatively too. He might be saving tyres. He's definitely not revving up to the limiter. You have a look at Peacock's on board too, and he's going right up to the orange, so he's doing a little bit of fuel saving and everything too, by the looks of it.
Like a little bit of contact between Ben Rowe and Dave Jansen. Slow down and off track and coming back on.
Urquhart's in the pit.
Banks opts to stay out. Doesn't follow him in. Looks like Patterson's going in. Bradbury opts to stay out, as does Chucker.
Bloke's in the pit lane at the moment, isn't he? Looks like Urquhart might come out around. Might come out in P5.
Looks like Gallen also just now exiting the pits. He's made an earlier stop. Actually, no, I think he's had a tow.
Peacock's in the pits now too. No, I'm looking at the pace car. My bad.
Oh, but he is diving in though. Here he comes. Well, Banks also following. 14 minutes left on the clock. Those cars would surely be getting light. Looks like he stays out on track.
It'll be interesting to see how the strategy's played
As
off
does
and where
Bradbury.
it'll come out.
A 46-second stop for Urquhart. Seems to be about the average time's about 45 to 48 seconds for a stop.
So Banks hasn't pitted yet.
No, and Bradbury opted to stay on. Yeah.
Must have a decent bit of pace over him. That, or he's been fuel saving the entire race. That's really interesting.
And then there's a 10 and a 10.2 second gap between Banks and Bradbury now. And it looks like Banks hasn't got too much traffic to contend with just yet. So if he can last a few more laps, he might be able to put a bit of space out there and come in a little bit closer to the front of the pack.
Cameron Peacock has come out ahead of Blake Urquhart there. Still a fair chunk of time between the two of them.
Nearly 7-second difference in pit stop. So it's only 39.5 seconds for Peacock. Urquhart spent 46 seconds.
Really interesting. Wonder if Urquhart got tyres. Wonder if any of them got tyres.
Would have been a few extra seconds for a fast repair if he did have that damage. Banks in the pits now. Bradbury also choosing to come in, so they must have been pretty tight on fuel, I would imagine, coming onto that final lap before coming in.
So Peacock didn't take any tyres on, he only took fuel. I'm just going back to have a look at Urquhart now.
School is fitting it at the moment.
Urquhart took fuel too, so that's interesting. Didn't take any tyres, sorry. The tyre deck might not be a big factor in this, but it's really interesting why Urquhart was fuel saving and took on that much extra fuel. He might have miscalculated. That's really interesting.
Might be having words with his crew chief at the end of it.
Yeah, crew chief's definitely knocked me around in these races a couple of times. Especially in the skid barber where you got to go multiple litres at a time, so the crew chief gives you less litres and tells you to fuel save, but when you're at fuel it says that you're running on fumes and you don't actually think you're running on fumes.
And Stephen Banks has gained a position out of the pit stop. So he had a even quicker stop, 37.3 seconds. That's one of the quickest pit stops out of all the drivers.
I'm really curious.
So he's came out one position ahead. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if it's still going to hold out for him.
It's really interesting. So the gap between Peacock and Banks right now is 12 seconds. And the gap between Banks and Urquhart, by the looks of it, is 1. No, it's not, it's 5.
It's about 5.
Really interesting. Wonder what's happened with Urquhart. He'll probably be dirty at that. Fuel saving the entire race by the looks of it, and then
and get stung with extra fuel. He's probably just hoping he's going to have more than enough fuel and things might get a little bit tight for those ahead.
Gallons in the top 10. It's 9th now. Must be a little bit of quick traffic going around unless you just made a pass on someone.
Brennan's blinking a bit. Gallen's carrying a heap of pace at the moment. As he laid down that previous lap of 125, nearly matching pace with Vcock at the moment.
That's a faster time than he put in qualifying. One thing he does seem to have to work on now is his consistency. A little bit over the top at the moment.
I'm not sure if there's a blink going on or a toe. I think Chetton's suffered a disconnect. A few of our debuts doing well. Winrace P10. Brennan's just moved up to 7th. Bradbury's had a spin. Looks like it was at the chicane.
The gap's still going out for Urquhart. So with the extra fuel, he might be carrying a little bit less pace too with the extra weight. Because his gap is now at 17 seconds from Vcock. Just gone up to 16.6 now by the look of it though. Banks is holding steady with him. He's pulling similar times. He's sitting at 11.4 second gap to Vcock. But it looks like I'm not entirely sure what's going on with at the moment because he's falling off and then coming back and falling off and coming back. So we'll have to check in with that time in a couple of laps, see if it's gone down much.
He might be struggling with the car at the moment.
But a lot of the times, Urquhart just says he jumps in and drives, so he doesn't put much practice into things. So maybe he's really struggling with setup. He might be having a bit of trouble with understeer as well.
Yeah, where it was holding out nicely in those opening laps. As that tyre temps started to go up, the understeer may be playing a little bit of havoc with him.
Or he could have gone the opposite way and done practice and found a really fast setup that worked for him. And put a camber on the front tyre so he had a heap turning speed, but it might have taken some leg out of his tyres. Infinite possibilities. Banks is starting to fall off now though. He's lost a second in the last couple of laps. So I don't know if that's through mistakes he's making or...
Could be a little bit of conserving too. So he did take a very quick stop.
Could be too, yeah. Didn't figure it out. Looks like he's just pulled back another half second on him now though, so... Looks like he's just pulled a 25.1. Urquhart's at 25.5. So he's definitely got more pace on him than Urquhart does.
Vcock weaving his way through lap traffic. He's had a fantastic run through.
Right now, the fastest lap looks like it's held by Cameron Vcock with a 1 minute 24 dead. Urquhart's fastest lap was a 1:24.09, so very close to Vcock's time, but his last lap was actually only 0.2 of a second off. So his pace isn't too bad. Banks' time was 0.2 quicker than Vcock's fastest last lap time, I should say.
Yeah, actually, yeah, it is some pretty good times. 24.094 for Urquhart to the 0.004 for Vcock. a fair few 24s out there. They've done fantastic. There's 4.5 minutes left on the clock. We're on lap 22. Vcox led for 21. Safety car called out for lap 1.
So I think it might almost be safe to say that unless Vcox makes a terrifying mistake, he might come home with this one with an 11.5 second gap on Banks. So the fight might be between Banks and Urquhart, depending on number 1 mistakes and number 2 pace. Well, it does look like Urquhart's pace is falling back a bit too. So the gap between him and Vcox now is 19.1 seconds, so it's continually falling backwards.
It doesn't appear that Vcox really holding back at the moment. He's flying through.
He might be trying to get fastest lap points.
Yeah, good way to start the series if you can get a clean sweep to open.
Banks is catching on him though, by the looks of it. I'm watching it
made up a heap of time.
And it's going between, well, it was just down to 11.3, it's just gone back to 11.7 now, so he might have made a little mistake. I'm not trusting this lifetime, it's going too much.
Most of the drivers are fairly spaced. We have Tucker and Brennan only a couple seconds apart.
Looks like up to P10 by the looks of it. So Jonathan Gallen is the last one in the queue not to be lap. He's currently setting P9, which is really good considering he should come from Project Cars. I don't know how long it's been on iRacing or any other sim like that, but there is a world of difference between Project Cars and iRacing in terms of physics. It's so much harder getting on this.
And I think he's even had a tow as well, because he hasn't registered as making a pit, and I'm getting the weird timing which shows up when drivers had to tow the car, so he has taken the fuel at that point. So I think it was around the halfway point that he actually ended up being in and having to use that tow. So to be P9 is pretty well done.
I'll say there's one thing good about Assetto Corsa Competizione. I was speaking a little bit in the, well, right before the telecast with you about how shocking the endurance is, but one thing they do really good is they have compulsory pit stops. So you've got to, like, depending on what settings you have turned on for the pit stop, you've got to take tyres, fuel, something like that. And it actually works really well in my opinion. You can see if they've actually taken their compulsory pit stop, and you have to do it in a pit window. So the owner of the server decides on a pit window that they have to do it between. So there might be a pit window of only, we'll say 5 minutes. It could be the entire race of a pit window, but you can't, the pit window is you can't pit before it or afterwards, otherwise it doesn't read as a compulsory pit stop. But you can actually tell who has done a compulsory pit stop because it shows up green on their telecast. So that's one thing they do really well.
Yeah, that would be very nifty if we had that. That would be fantastic. Was the one thing with us always doing it on Project Cars, having the mandatory pit requirement as a setting, and then coming over to iRacing and it not being it, and having to actually cap the fuel just to force the drivers to actually have to take a pit.
Yeah, 100%. It's like that with Assetto Corsa too, like just straight Assetto Corsa. Yeah, don't have any mandatory pit stops. So if you wanted to do an offline race just with the AI and you wanted them to take a pit stop, you actually got to put fuel consumption to 3 times as much as what it should be. So just so they burn through the entire amount of fuel. So it's really frustrating.
Oh, I think that was a touch between Brennan and Bradbury. Bradbury's redressing it. A little bit of touch coming into the chicane.
Philip Buckland's having a bit of a laugh with him on the radio. Oh, Bradbury's
Yeah, I think he was right. I think he was right behind him to watch it happen. So he would have got a good view. And here it is, the last lap. White flag's out.
Steady lead, Veacock to Banks is now out to 12.2 seconds. So,
and it crosses the line. Veacock's our winner for round 1. This could very well be a clean sweep.
Banks might have just backed off a little bit just to make sure he finished, but there was a hell of a gap to Urquhart too. That's out to 21 seconds to the lead by the end of the race.
It is quite the gap. Patterson making his way home. Brings the car home in 4th.
You know what would have made this race really good? Another safety car.
Yeah, it would have definitely shook things up. There's only a couple laps down for most cars, so it would have definitely closed things in. Brennan and Gallen battling it out. Gallen gets an inside pass on the bank. He's going to have the chicane to deal with, and then he's got the finish line. Can he hold it? Oh, Brennan's going to try and fight him for it. That is very close, nearly photo finish between the two for 7th. I think Brennan may have just got him.
On my screen it's saying Gallen got him.
That's alright.
Did he? Let's have a look. Results.
There we go, some reverse donuts. School is having fun. Yeah, reverse donuts. We don't get to see that too often. Oh, he's going to bring it in. Let me do it again. Oh, Veacock graces with a reverse doughy. Right, they got. He's trying to get it to spool up. If he hasn't got a handbrake button set too, he's probably been having dramas. There he is. Nothing, so we'll bring up the results now. I can hear a fair few cars trying to do those burnouts. And then there we are, our results up. There's 26 laps done at Charlotte for the opening round with Veacock taking the win. Then we have in position 2 Stephen Banks, and on the podium also in P3 Blake Urquhart, and the rest of the standings is Oliver Patterson, Damien Cross, Sam Tucker, Jonathan Gallen, Michael Brennan, Robbie Bradbury, Justin Haitley, Daniel Winrow, Mark Cochran, Jason Schooler, Ben Rowe, Daniel Gomes, Tony Phillips, Dave Jansen, Lucas Burt, Adrian Simpson, Dan Bartosh, and then Philip Buckland, Russell Gander, Shane Patterson, and Harkin Chetten. So we'll be crossing over, talk to our drivers. I just have to change voice channel. And congratulations, guys. Good drive.
Yeah, thanks, buddy.
So yeah, led for all but one lap, so a good way to start the race, and it looks like a clean sweep for you too, Cam.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I saw the boys have a bit of trouble getting the thing off the line at the start. I don't know what was going on there.
It's quite a lot of practice.
Yeah, you just flew ahead at the start. It was just almost thought you might have had a jump start because everyone else was just still sitting still.
I got up to 3rd gear and I was still in wheel spin.
Need a diff lock button.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're starting to get a fair bit of pressure from Urquhart for those fair chunk at the start, but then you started to drop back a bit. Do you have damage or?
Yeah, I had left hand pedal, bit of damage at the front there. Kind of hit the wall.
Okay.
Cost me a bit of time.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you were starting to conserve fuel for a little bit and then you had that little bit extra time in the pits.
Yeah, I think I put too much fuel in, and pitch strategy wasn't the best tonight, but never driven the cars, so probably come out stronger next week and see how we go from there.
Yeah, it did
We
well.
put a bit of practice into it.
Oh, probably 30 laps, something like that. Yeah, a little bit, especially with these cars. I've only done 2 laps around Bathurst, so I don't really know that car that well. But yeah, no, good fun, something different, and good battle with Cam there at the start. After that restart, and stayed with him until I hit. I don't know if you probably didn't see it, but I hit that fence a little bit, and it cost me. So, but yeah, I didn't take any tyres too, so probably cost me a bit for second. I took a bit too much fuel as well, so.
Yeah, did you just take tyres, Cam and Stephen, or?
No, I don't. I just took fuel. I've got to worry about Banksy now because he seems to be on getting better at this fuel business. So I think I'm in trouble here.
Yeah, you gained a position out of it in the pits. It was pretty much the quickest pit stop out of everyone, I think. In the 37 seconds. So you saved a fair bit of time in the pits.
Oh, that's good. Felt like it took forever filling those cars up. Yeah. They're very slow, a lot slower than your supercars or the other race cars.
No high flow there.
Nah, back at the servo.
Yeah, that's it.
But no, it was good to get a spot, and then I did change front tyres only, which first 2 or 3 laps balance. After that was a bit nuts out the back, but no, it seemed to pay dividends because I was putting time on Blake, and I was able to not really lose much time to Ken, so it all worked out well in the end.
Yeah, it definitely paid off. Quite a good strategy because we did see those lap times getting quicker and then that gap closing in on Camp. And if another safety car came out, things would have been a little bit interesting.
Yeah, it would have been. I was hoping for one. I actually drove down to Melbourne on Friday and then was at a wedding all day Saturday, and then I drove back from Melbourne yesterday. So I haven't had I think I did about 10 laps of practice, and so as the race went longer, I was getting better and better, it felt. It was learning the track.
Yeah. It was
It's not
definitely
an easy
quick.
track, this one either, is it?
Beg your pardon?
It's not an easy track, this Charlotte Road course either, is it?
No, it's not at all. It's quite technical in a way, and if you get certain bits wrong, it costs you a lot of time if you don't get a good exit onto those straights and just different things like that. So, but no, it's a fun track, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And everyone enjoying getting the car up on 2 wheels each time at each of those sausage curbs in the chicanes.
Yeah, it's a little bit like a V8.
That's it. Just throw it over it.
It's actually quite terrifying through there, and as you mentioned, it's a very, very technical track. It's especially being front wheel drive too. Trying to get the power down is just impossible in these things. You have to be so gentle.
What's it feel like getting on the throttle? Is it does it feel like an open diff, or is it a lock diff sort of feel?
It feels. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's like a probably a limited slip. It just wants to plough forward. You got no control over it unless you come right off.
Yeah, so you probably say it's probably open. It just likes the wheel spin out of corners and all that.
Do a
Especially
couple
for
one-wheel
front-wheel drive.
peels.
Yeah, that's it, mate. Bit of peelies and you'll be right.
If we get number 11s, we're doing number 1s tonight.
And he's going to have a handbrake button for some front wheel burnouts for next week.
There's no handbrake in this car.
Ah, none at all.
No, so I had a look earlier. There's nothing there. It's
Preparing for it.
Not even that. Just trying to get the thing off the line. Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to try and hold the clutch? What are you going to brake? It's just one of those things. There's just no button for it.
There you go. And we saw a few reverse doughies getting into the action, so trying to smoke the things up.
That's all you're going to do, isn't it?
That's it. Oh, yeah, fantastic race, guys. There was some fantastic battles to be seen in these, so it looks like it's going to be an exciting series.
I had fun. Yes.
Yeah, definitely a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Hopefully I'll have a bit of some for Cameron next week.
Get a bit of practicing.
Yeah.
Yeah, he probably turned more laps than me, so I'll use that as an excuse, eh?
I did the same last year, thank you.
I often hear you say that you just jump in and drive, you don't put any practice in at all. So I heard that a lot in the Skip Barber series. So Put a
Yeah,
little bit
well,
of practice in, that gap might shrink a little bit from 21 seconds by the end.
I should have more beers in me next time. I didn't drink tonight, so probably that was my excuse tonight.
There's your problem. Yeah.
Yeah, there's my problem. So, oh well, it is what it is. But nah, great
Get a
bottle,
bit of
guys.
Bundy
And,
into you.
yeah, nah, beers made for me, mate. You can have the Bundies. But good race,
Oh,
guys,
okay.
and come next week.
Yeah, it'll be
Alright,
a lot
mate.
more technical at Okayama.
Oh, yeah, we'll see how we go with that one. Different story.
Proper drift track, that one.
Yeah, be some of
Yeah.
that going on.
There'll be a lot of elbows out in Biff and Barge.
I might as well race around backwards, especially with no handbrake button. So.
Yeah, just swap it around so you get that rear wheel drive. Just keep it in reverse. Off you go.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Put the gearing right the way up so you can do 200 in reverse.
Yeah, well, if you can do that, go for it.
Yeah, fantastic drive, guys. Thanks for putting on a good
Good to
show.
watch
And
tonight.
good luck next week.
Cheers, boys.
Thanks, JT.
Thanks, bud.
All right. And thanks for jumping in again, Ryan. We're good to see you in the commentary box again next week.
Yep, sounds good. Thanks for having me.
No worries.
Catch up.
And then we have our podium finishes with Cameron Veacock taking out the win in the final round. Sorry, for the first round. Getting a little confused there. And then Stephen Banks in position 2 and Blake Urquhart in position 3. It'll be exciting to see how drivers go in the Kia Optimas next week at Okayama. And then load that session up. So that is round 2 at Okayama International Circuit in the full course. It's going to be very technical. There's some good fast sections, but there's going to be a lot of elbows out to try and take those positions. So do stay tuned. Hit the follow button if you haven't done so already, so you can be notified when we go live. And then we've also got the opening round for our Mustang Boss 302R Cup on Project Cars 2 this Thursday night. So plenty of racing action to come over these next 4 weeks for these series. So hope to see you again next week, and thanks for watching.